Okay, g'day again. Right, just about ready for our trip away. What I'm doing here right now, I managed to scratch all the back of the bonnet, and I was fixing up that panel in top in front of the windscreen. Because that had big rust holes in it that I welded up, and I didn't get it right, so I had to correct it and make, because it didn't match the bonnet properly. And even though I taped up this edge, I still managed to scratch it all. And the other thing got here, it's paint cracked in two spots just in here. There's two things that could have caused that. Either a bit of residue of some kind, a bit of maybe detergent or dust, dry paint, something. And also, I got it a bit thick. I think it was a primer that actually cracked, but it cracked after the top cap went on. And it got rust under it, so I've had to rub all that back. As you can see, I've got a little bit of etch primer where the bare metal was. Up here too, I tried to get, I had to get some paint down inside this vent because it looked ugly and it was starting to rust. So I got some treatment down in there and some black enamel, and I didn't want to tape up around each individual hole. I got a bit lazy, so I just sort of taped around it and then tried to wipe it off later, and didn't work. Rubbed the paint off, and same up here. Tried to glue the badge on because I didn't have badge holders, and that looked shit. Looked real messy, and then I took it off, and then in trying to clean the glue off, I took the paint off as well. So that was a result of being impatient and lazy, not going and get the proper clips. I've now got the proper clips anyway. I put the little bit of etch primer in the airbrush. You can't spray it straight into the bowl. You got to sort of spray it on the top edge, let it fall in. You can't actually fill the bowl up; it'll just blow it straight out. But I find paint out of a spray can is the right viscosity for the airbrush. It's good. But, now I've mixed up some white. There's another issue in that because there's paint all over the top of the tin. You can see the tin here, and because that's all crusty, so I don't have any paint filters. So if I attempted to pour that out, you'd get crusty bits of paint falling into it, which would clog the gun up. Especially an airbrush, it's only a miniature little hole. It'll clog up real easy. And if it doesn't clog it, it'll spray a lump into your paint anyway. So so because I didn't have a filter, I've used a syringe to syringe some paint out. I've added 50% thinners to that. So I'm now going to put your finger in front of the lens again. This is tricky. Hold the airbrush and undo the vise at the same time. I mean, I haven't clamped it up tight, but anyway. Airbrush is only going around about 20 pounds. So first we'll do our edge. A little bit thicker on the edge, and what I'll do, got to run out of paint. Sounded like it was running out. Good thing with the airbrush, because you have to thin it so much to get it to actually blow through the gun. Sprays on very fine and neat. So, there's sort of pretty easy to buff up. And, which is a good thing, because you don't want to buff it too much anyway. You find, like, I go with this airbrush with, put 10 coats on this with the airbrush, it still won't equal, the thickness of 3 coats of with the spray gun, So, I'll be very gentle when I shine this up again. Anyway, that'll be enough of that for the moment. Put this back up here. Okay, what I will do is, start off on the edge. I'll end up, I'll blend it, say yay far up. And, because this paint's already been on here 6 months. So. And as with all paint, it sort of changes colour a bit, with a bit of sun, wash, gets a bit of dirt into it, and so yada yada, So, even though it's out of the same tin, you still want to try and blend it, If I just did a little bit on the edge here, you'd probably see a colour difference. And not that I'm terribly worried about this bonnet. This bonnet's got to be sprayed again anyway. I've got a couple of issues. The main one is it's not meeting the panel down here. And given how much rust and modifications were done to this car, I don't know if it's the bonnet that's not right or the body that's not right, but rather than trying to panel beat it down or reshape it, what I'm going to eventually do is I'm going to open this up. I'll cut this along with the angle grinder, and I'll pull it down, 5 mil or so until it actually lines up properly, weld it back together. And underneath, you probably can't see, and I'm not going to lift it up, but you've got a lip that goes underneath, and because it flexes so much, and also because this bonnet's had so much welding and it's got a lot of putty in it, and the putty is starting to crack in a few places around the edge. So when I correct this part, I'm going to weld another lip all the way around, stop it flexing. So, at some point down the track, this whole bonnet will get resprayed anyway. So, as I said, this is for the time being, so it looks okay. And, okay, what else have we done? I've added a switch to my fuel cut-off valve. I've got a cut-off valve connected to the ignition. It's because I've seen several bugs burn to the ground now because they get a fire in the engine, and then you can't shut the fuel off. It just keeps supplying the fire. And what it does too is, which it can't do in this now because I've sealed it all off, but you've got openings right up in here. It's probably ventilation or something. And then you've got this sort of spray and foam stuff in the panels. And the fire comes right up in here, it ignites this foam and you can't put it out. And it just, gets up in your roof, and that's the end of the car, gone. So, as I said, I put a cut-off valve on the fuel, so you turn the ignition off, it shuts the fuel off. So, hopefully won't ever have a fire, but I won't have fuel constantly feeding the fire. And the other thing too is I'll put a switch in, which I'm not going to show you where the switch is, but if I'm parking anywhere suspect, I can switch the fuel off. And the thing will still start. If somebody manages to hotwire it and start it, they'll start it and it'll run for about 2 or 3 minutes until the bowl's empty, and then it'll run out of fuel. And yeah, having actually done this in my juvenile days, I don't really like admitting this, but yeah, once the car started, if you go to steal a car, once you make that initial noise of starting the car, you go into a panic mode, and you just want to get the hell out of there. And if it starts and then you go to drive it out and it stops, you're just going to get out, hop out and get out of there. You're not going to hang around trying to figure out why it ran out of fuel, or why it won't go. So it's actually better than, if you got a secret switch on the ignition, you hotwire it, no ignition lights, you know that you have to look for a switch. As I said, once it's started and it stops again, that's it, you're gone. You're not going to hang around. So, yeah, even though I've been driving this around the yard for probably a year now, even before I had the show on, I was driving this floor pan around. And, only use first, second gear, carrying things in it, and things are banging around and clanging anyway. And you get it out on the road, you start using third and fourth gear, and then you notice all the little rattles and clunks, and I've been going all over it, and I found several things now that were making noise, but the main thing that was making the noise was a gear shift. Yeah. There was 2 problems with it. One is that up under the rear seat, and I'm not going to take the seat out to show you, but there's a cover panel that goes over the coupling on the gear shaft, and because I'd also cut rust out of the back of this, that panel was 10 mil too low. It was actually hitting on the gear shaft, so yeah, I've had to pull that up out of the way. That was the first thing, and then it was banging and clanging on the there's a retainer with a nylon bush in it, just in the channel, just behind the gear shift, and because the bush was totally gone, there was no bush in there at all. And as I said, driving at first, second gear around the yard, I didn't even notice that the gear shift was loose. And but yeah, when you get out on the road and you're starting to have trouble selecting gears, and as I said, and it's banging around under there, and of course I only realised this 2 days ago, so I haven't got time anyhow to wait for the original part to come through the mail. Wouldn't be able to get one local. So I've done something a little bit bodgy and temporary. I've got a thin bit of rubber strip, and I've wrapped it around the gear shaft with a bit of grease and poked it into the retainer, and then I was trying to figure out how to stop it coming out, even though it was staying in there anyway. I was changing gears and it was staying in there, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to come out. So one of the gear shift retainer bolts, I just put in a bolt that was a bit longer. I'd try a few bolts, and so I've now got a bolt in there that's about 1 mil off the shaft and about 2 mil in front of where the rubber's sitting, so that will hopefully stop the rubber coming out for the time being. And when I get back from my 3,000k trip, I'll buy the right part, and because that's a fairly involved job anyway. I'd have to take all my nudge bar off. You got to pull the shaft right out the front, out of the channel. But yep, we'll get to that. As I said, everything's pretty good. I got passed for reg. I took it in for a tune-up. Got me original, because I bought a Chinese carby, and it wasn't working properly. Starving for fuel. And so I got my original carby cleaned out and done by the local Volkswagen mechanic, and it's fitted that on, and it's, like it's going a whole lot better. I can maintain speed now. I can stay with the traffic. I wasn't able to do that before, but it's still got a bit of an issue. It's I can probably up the res just a little bit, but yeah, it'll actually stall off the mark if you don't put your foot down pretty hard. It seems to have a little bit of a flat spot, bit of a delay in acceleration, so yeah, he hasn't got it perfect. And same with the wheel line. I've got a wheel line, that's not perfect either. I think it's probably a bit too straight. I think it might need a tiny bit of toe in. It's, following the contours of the road. You hit a bit of a pothole and it'll go dive sideways. So, as I said, that's a guess. I'm not a tyre alignment technician or anything, but I'm just guessing it needs a tiny bit of toe in. So I'm going to do a half inch, like a half turn of toe in. Take for a test drive and see if it makes a difference. And but yeah, I've got another clang in the back. I've yet to look at that, but I suspect it's actually the handbrake cables hitting on the trailing arm or something like that. I can't think of it. Everything else is secured, and so it's about the only thing I can think of that it might be. So, but yeah, yet to find out for sure. And I managed to get a bit of shine on the roof above that. Yeah, it's not really going to show. You can see a little bit of shine, but yeah, it's come up pretty good. So yeah, tomorrow I'll be buffing the rest of it now, try and make it look a bit decent. I'll put a black strip where the stepping boards used to be. I'm eventually going to put a side protection bar in there, but yeah, for the time being I'll put some black in there. I've also managed to, camera's gone out of focus. Anyway, I managed to get some bitumen underneath one of the guards. This is a thick roofing bitumen brush on. And yeah, not only going to protect it, but it looks a whole lot better than having the white under there. Yeah. Anyway, so, the other thing, that's the other thing we did. We put a cigarette lighter. I did manage, in my last video, I was making a steel piece, and I managed to wrap the alloy back around the steel piece, so I've got a working door handle again now. And you can't even notice it. It's pretty happy with that. Don't even know if I'll buy a new one yet. I'll just leave it as it is. In here, we got light. No. Grab a torch. I didn't want to cut a hole in my dash when I had brackets or anything, so I'll put a cigarette lighter in the glove box. And yeah, there was a mistake made there. I looked under there, didn't grab the torch, didn't have a proper look. Cut the hole, and then there wasn't enough clearance because it was the radio's in the way, so I had to cut a second hole and plug that one up. What I think I'll do actually is I'll put another plug in there, one that I can't think of the name, but the plug you have in your computer anyway, which all your phones and things plug into now anyway. So I'll put one of them in there. So, but yeah. In putting this cigarette lighter in the glove box. The reason I did this, as I said, I didn't want to cut a hole out of bracket, but the main reason for the cigarette lighter is for charging my phone, and it's also to pump up air beds when we go camping, whatever. But in having it in the glove box, you can't leave the cigarette lighter in there, because something gets jammed in there, pushes the cigarette lighter in and doesn't allow it to release, it's going to catch on fire. So yeah, the cigarette lighter has to stay loose, and you also can't leave it open, because you get a bit of metal screwdriver or something in there, short out, catch on fire again, or blow your fuses, whatever. So yeah, I had to go searching for me bits and pieces, and I keep all these bits and pieces. I got boxes and boxes of all sorts of things. So yeah, by having it in the glove box, I have to keep it plugged up. So yeah, also put a bit of rubber in there, and do this from the other car too. Things rattling around in your glove box, and it gets annoying. So I should cut down a bit of the rattle. Anyway, that's what we're up to. So we've got 3 days to go. 3 days now, get it polished, get rid of this other rattle, get the bonnet back on, and yeah, should be an interesting journey. And I get to the show, I'll do a couple of videos of the show, and there's plenty to see up there, and yeah, should make for an interesting video. Anyway, thanks for watching, and once again, hit the like if you like.